So over the weekend, members of the Browns staff reportedly went down to meet with Shedeur Sanders at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Andrew Berry was part of the contingency that met with Shedeur Sanders. Two-part question, guys. Oh, also worth mentioning, Shedeur is not practicing or throwing at the Shrine Bowl, just doing interviews. Reports say he has been asked by teams in the top 3 not to participate, just to do interviews. G, how important are these pre-draft interviews for top prospects, especially quarterbacks? And B, any issue with Shedeur not participating in the East-West Shrine Bowl, just going down there to conduct interviews?
He's smart not to participate. I wouldn't listen. You're a guaranteed number 1, number 2 pick. There's nothing really that you can do but hurt your stock. I mean, I think the teams probably told him, no, don't practice, don't be playing, just do interviews.
Why would the teams tell him not to practice?
Why would?
Well, they don't want to get him. They don't want him to get hurt. They're planning. One of these top 3 they're planning on drafting him.
No, but practicing, he's not going to get hurt in practice. I mean, that seems.
You never know.
You never know.
It happens.
I saw Deshaun Watson tear his Achilles on a non-contact, simple scramble.
Right.
I saw Deshaun Watson tear his Achilles going into the trunk of his car.
Allegedly.
Whatever
Allegedly.
the hell he
This
was doing was
is
knocking
why you're not on the Christmas list. This is why.
That is.
No, but here's the thing. I like this a lot because it makes it makes the Browns seem like they are adult professionals. There's a lot of stuff going around and people saying, oh, Prime ain't going to let his son come there. He ain't going to let this. They ain't going to let that. They ain't going to let this. When you're an organization and you in the NFL and you are one of the 32 teams and really a team that needs a quarterback, there's no way, shape, or form that you can let outside noise like that deter you from going to do your due diligence on every single player. I don't care what somebody's dad say. At that point in time, one of the things that is going to have to evolve, and it will evolve, is at some point in time, Shedeur Sanders has to be his own man. He has to be his own advocate. You can get advice from anybody, but unlike a lot of people, when you go to college and you start to play the game, your father just looks on because, he may have coached you when you're younger, but now he's looking at it as a fan and a guy that just wants the best for you. So Shedeur Sanders, he's going to get that, and he's probably going through that point right now with Coach Prime. Now, here's the thing. You could say, oh, they're a dumpster fire in Cleveland. Is Shedeur really going to come here? They're going to let him. It's a funny thing how when somebody says to you, hey, it don't matter what the past was. If somebody like you, they don't care. Why? My wife really don't care if I got a divorce, right, if she liked me. She's like, okay, well, did you hurt somebody? Do you got any felonies? Was you abusive? None of that. I really don't care why the relationship ended. All that matters is how you treat me. So if the Browns come into this situation and say, look, we had Deshaun Watson. It was a dumpster fire. It didn't really work. Here's some things we did wrong. Here's some things we can work on. But I'm going to tell you something. We got faith in you and your skill set, and you are different. You can turn it around. We are choosing you. It's funny how when somebody says they are choosing you, how that changes your mindset on whether or not it's a dumpster fire or not, because that go out the window when people start to develop and understand a relationship, and that's what these guys are doing. They're trying to go and start a relationship to see where this guy's head is at and to figure out if we can work together or something.
They are. That's a great point, but here's my concern on that, G. If you're picking first or second, you were a dumpster fire last year.
Yes.
That's pretty much a fact. You were a dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. You won 2 or 3 games, and you were at the bottom of the league's talent cycle. Mm-hmm. This is what would give me pause as a player. If I'm sitting alone with my thoughts and I'm saying, okay, if I had my pick.
Right.
Tennessee was a playoff team as a regular playoff team not that long ago.
Right.
I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns saying they built a new stadium in 1999 and they've never played a playoff game in it.
Yep.
Think about that.
Yep.
That's not a short-term dumpster fire like you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the league is supposed to spend time at the bottom of the talent cycle and the top. That's the way it's set up. Mm-hmm. But because of front offices, some teams, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, New England's before, tend to be at the top for way too long and never at the bottom. And other teams, and we know which teams those are, Jacksonville, Cleveland, before this year, Detroit, for some reason live down in the gutter. Mm-hmm. And if I'm a number 1 draft pick coming out, I'm hoping like hell Tennessee calls my name and not Cleveland.
Oh yeah, make no bones about it. They got work to do, and anybody that would be at the top of the draft should have pause. I'm not saying that he doesn't, but what I am saying is that the Cleveland Browns, by talking and communicating, I think there's ways that they can assure him or build a relationship where he's
and he'll listen. But you know what he's thinking? I hope Tennessee feels the same way.
I disagree. I don't think. To me, they maybe it's cool to pick on the Browns nationally. I get it, and they've been a dumpster fire. Tennessee's not a good organization either.
Well,
the Browns have been to the playoffs more recently than Tennessee.
Well, the Browns have never hosted a playoff game in this stadium.
I understand that. How many home games has Tennessee had in the playoffs?
Right now, they are where? At the bottom of the talent cycle. Yeah. Of course they are. They're picking first. What I'm saying is...
But you just said the Titans have won recently. The Browns have been to the playoffs more recently than the Titans.
Okay, so that's one example, but there was a stretch, 2 stretches, going back to before the Browns came in, that Tennessee was in the playoffs multiple years in a row.
And boy,
Cleveland hasn't proven they can do that.
That was so many years ago. Who cares at this point?
But what it is it speaks to a culture. Kansas City has a culture. Yeah. When you're traded to Kansas City, you walk through that front door like you have an S on your chest.
Tennessee doesn't have a culture.
No, I'm not saying they do. Yeah. But if you're juxtaposing the two,
I don't buy
nobody beats Cleveland in terms of bad culture.
I think more than the culture thing, I think how they've done with quarterbacks. There was a perception out there that Baker Mayfield was done wrong to a certain segment of population. They feel like the situation with Deshaun Watson was a dumpster fire. So I think when you look at it in totality, I think that there's other things with quarterbacks that haven't done well as well.
The Browns, besides Baker, there's no other quarterback that you could say, well, this guy was good other places. Who? There's nobody else.
Well, no.
I don't think he's saying good other places.
I mean, Watson was, but that was before he got here.
But stunted what they could have been.
It's been a dumpster fire for quarterbers.
Well, if you're the number one, and obviously there's you want to be the number one pick because you want to be the number one pick. But if all things were equal, and you would ask Shedeur or even his advisor Deion, where would you most like to see your son go?
Yeah.
Can anyone make an argument for this is the place to be?
Probably not. I could just give you my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
What I'm saying.
I just don't think Tennessee's obviously been a better organization than Cleveland, but I still think of them as a bad organization.
Listen, Bull, they are. Last year they were a dumpster fire.
All the teams that may draft Shedeur Sanders are bad organizations.
I feel like what happened in Tennessee was an owner took over that thought she knew how to put a winner on the field. And she thought that might not necessarily include Mike Vrabel. I also know that recently, Mike Vrabel was the pick candidate to go take the job in New England. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go do Bill Belichick work there.
Right.
But I think that Mike Vrabel is looked at in NFL circles as a guy that knows how to win. He's going to bring a winning culture.
Right, but they did flop in the playoffs a bunch of times.
In Tennessee. But the owner came in and she said, I want co-head coaches.
Yeah, wow.
And she did a lot of other things that aren't even public.
Dang, wow.
That people within the organization.
So why would people look at them highly?
Well, here's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right now, that's their recent history. If I'm going there, there's also great pause that she's going to continue to screw things up there. They had a pretty good thing going, and then for some reason she wanted to run Mike Vrabel.
To be fair, and I wouldn't have fired Mike Vrabel, he was trending down.
Well, things that she was doing within the organization that aren't exactly out in the domain that people that were there know was going on gave people in the organization real concern.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So then why would Tennessee be the better place to be?
If you're comparing the two.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is better.
You're just looking
the perception.
Number one, I'll throw this out there. Tennessee does not have a state income tax. That matters to these guys. I've talked to NFL players when they make their list of potential free agent places. They want Nashville, they want Miami, they want Jacksonville, they want Tampa, they want Texas.
Okay, but that's not why we can't. We're going to debate that
we're just going to start piling up things.
Right.
Now, is either organization a model organization? Of course not.
Yeah. No.
At this point, you're saying, which is the worst destination for me? I don't know how anybody can tell me that Cleveland isn't the worst.
But I think if you're a winner and you think you're special, then you should be able to turn any team into a winner.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I am
Young
saying,
and naive.
People were saying Joe Burrow shouldn't go to Cincinnati. How many people said that at the time?
Well, Joe
Yeah.
Burrow really didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Joe Burrow wasn't going to be drafted professionally in another sport, and he didn't make a ton of money at
I hear
LSU.
you, but there was still a lot of people writing articles. He should refuse to go to the Bengals, even if we think it's stupid. There was a lot of people writing that. And what did he say? No, I'm going to go.
And I love that attitude. And by the way,
Yeah.
I also loved his answer. How long is Cincinnati going to be is this window open?
Yeah.
As long as I'm here. I love that attitude, Bull. I do. I love it.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, it can be a little naive. A player can be naive.
Well, here's what I'll give Shedeur.
CeCe said when he was 19, he thought he should have been in the starting rotation for the Indians.
I don't think Shedeur Sanders, by any stretch of the imagination, is a finished project. Does he have lots of stuff he needs to work on? Sure. But the one thing that I will give him credit for, that this has never happened. There has never been a quarterback who left a HBCU. Let me tell you something. When you look at HBCU programs and how many
Steve McNair came from an HBCU.
Yes, but here's the thing. He stayed at a HBCU.
Right.
Shedeur Sanders is the first dude to come from an HBCU squad to go Division I, major Division I, to a team that had nobody. I think they won one win in Colorado the year prior, or no wins the year prior. He gets there and immediately from HBCU throws for almost 4,000 yards. That's unheard of. Then he comes back, and then he's on the Heisman list all year. He comes back and he throws for 4,000 yards again. And then the only two players they got, the only two cats they got three players. They got Travis Hunter. They got Shedeur Sanders and Jimmy Horn. And Jimmy Horn Jr. was hurt the whole season. They had two players, and they got 9 wins with 2 people from HBCU schools. That's crazy. That shows me that he has the competitive nature. That shows me the spotlight ain't too big. And it shows me that, yes, his dad is Coach Prime, but he's not going to be intimidated if he go to New York, and he probably won't be intimidated if he come to Cleveland. I think that's just what he's built on. Now, the question is he good enough? That's just all it comes down to. Because if he's good enough, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. Because all it takes is the owner to fall in love with him, and he won't give a damn what he talking
Unless
about.
Tennessee's owner falls in love with him.
Yes, and that's the point. The Browns did a great job. If you don't like Shedeur, you better make sure they think you like Shedeur. Because if you don't like him, the Giants or somebody else gotta love him. And if they love him, I need them picks. I need that compensation. They better act like they taking this man at all costs. Because the thing I know about guys in this season, if that owner or the owner's family or the owner, that you don't think that the general manager from the Giants, when they asked him, "Hey Dad, you should be taking Jaden Daniels," you don't think that's ringing in his head all year round?
Sure.
Jaden Daniels gonna move a lot of people up.
I saw another video this morning where they were talking about not re-signing Saquon Barkley, and that comes off pretty funny.
That looked kind of crazy too.
But yeah, I mean, I think in the end, maybe Jason said this on Friday. I can't remember who said it, but if the Browns have the chance at Shedeur Sanders and they think he's going to be a great quarterback, they got to draft him. And the rest is nothing.
And if they think Cam Ward is that guy.
Yeah, whatever. Whoever they think.
Then they should be talking to the Tennessee Titans about why they need the number 1 pick. If they feel that strongly about it. Because here's the thing.
Especially if it's not close between
Yes,
the two.
yes.
If they think it's negligible, the difference, then they can live with the number
Right.
2. But if they think one of them is a winner and the other one is Ryan Leaf, then, yeah, you better call Tennessee and say, what do you need from us?
And hope Tennessee doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there is also a world where Tennessee says, nope,
Well,
he's our
Tennessee-
guy, and we're taking him.
Yeah, well, Tennessee is not going to know who they'd be trading up for necessarily.
Yeah, well, you would have to tell them. Remember, who was we talking about it? Like when they do these trades, don't they have to tell them who the guy is that they want to draft at number 1?
No. That's covert stuff.
Man.
No, you can,
That's
and you could
Tennessee's-
lie. Gee, I could call you and be like, hey,
Of course you can lie.
we need
They
Travis
do.
Hunter at 1. We can't afford any team getting up Travis Hunter, and then you move up to 1, take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. Like, there's no binding agreement
that's
on
dirty.
that.
There's no rules.
I
in the
want
draft
an
war.
NBA trade then. I'm gonna pick my guy, then I'll trade after the fact.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you could do that too. If you knew that
I want him that.
the teams at 3, 4, or 5 were in love with a certain guy, then you might just talk to them before the draft and say, look, we might take him. If we take him, what kind of compensation would you give us? Then you go to team number 4 and say, we might take him. What kind of package are you going to put together? Go to 5. We're going to take him. What kind of package? Then you look at 3 or 4 packages. Then you can say, well, that's the trade we want to make.
Yeah.
And then you make the best available trade.
I think for all us involved, Shedeur Sanders I want Shedeur Sanders to have the best offseason in his life.
Well, both of them.
Both of them. I want them to be
it
smart.
helps us.
I want that background check to come back clean. I want no injuries. I want them to both be almost 6'3".
You're not getting that part, G.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Unless
can help you on
measured in
that.
high heels, you ain't getting the 6'3"
Hey,
part.
put them Timberlands on. Listen, I'm having them play because listen, if you get the Giants, we already know what it is. Giants, you need a quarterback. You just do. The Raiders, come on, you need a splash pick. Saints. You got that nice little.
Yeah, but what you're leaving out is the Browns do too.
I know.
Yes.
It's a dangerous game to play.
It is a dangerous game.
Because if they pass on one of these dudes and they are great, and the NFL is great about jumping on it early. Look at Shedeur Sanders in New York.
You know, on that. Well, here's what I would love to see NFL films do, and the league. They've peeled back the curtain and they've given unfettered access during some of the, an in-season look at the AFC North this year.
They're not doing an off-season one. The Giants was a one and done.
Yeah, I know. But here's what I would love.
I would
love is draft day, the movie reality.
Yeah.
So you put film crews in every team's draft room.
Yeah.
Man.
And you put together a 2-hour feature film or 8 hours, 4 parts. It would be
great if it was uncensored.
You'd have to get the real stuff. Now, the beauty about that is it's all stuff that once it's out, it's out.
It's out.
It doesn't
don't matter.
Like,
well,
you
but if
wouldn't
it
want
makes somebody
in,
look bad.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Obviously, the teams before they gave all of that would say, look, we have to have some sort of veto on some of this stuff.
Right, but that's the problem with all these vetoes.
It is, but you're never going to get it otherwise.
No.
I think it would be a fascinating peel behind the curtain to see these phone calls, to hear what guys are saying. There might be some bruised feelings.
Yep.
And it might even create a situation where the Browns say Shedeur Sanders cannot play, and we know that. And then Shedeur Sanders goes to Pittsburgh and goes 22-0 against us in his first 11 seasons, like Ben Roethlisberger.
What is your feeling? All right, so it's number 2. They go hand to pick in. What is your feeling that most people in Cleveland would say if it is Shedeur Sanders?
Here's what I can guarantee you: no matter what they do, it'll be split. Guaranteed.
Yeah,
we are the
50-50.
most divided fan base I've ever seen.
That is, I agree.
And I don't know that anybody can argue against that. And here's how I know. Look at the flashpoints that we've had the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Baker was a flashpoint. Odell Beckham was a flashpoint. The decision to go for Deshaun Watson, and then whether or not he could play.
Right.
It's like our fan base is cannibalizing ourselves.
Johnny
Manziel was a flashpoint.
I think any fan base in those scenarios would have been the same thing.
Well, I thought about that.
Yeah.
Any perpetual losing fan base. Like if you're the Bills this morning, you're arguing against some play calling decisions.
Right.
Okay. If you're the Chiefs, what the hell's your flashpoint the last decade?
Well, right.
So the reason we're the most divided fan base in sports is because there is a very valid argument to be made that of all of the professional sports teams that call the United States of America home, we are the biggest dumpster fire.
And do you believe?
And that leads to dissension. A family that's got problems tears apart. A family that has no problems stays together.
Do you think that if what the media would, like, when we got Odell Beckham Jr., they put us on TV every week. When we got Baker Mayfield, we were like, he was like, do you think Shedeur Sanders moves the needle?
Yes.
Will it be bigger than all the other stuff we talked about with Manziel, OBJ, or do you think it's just...
Here's what I worry about long term.
Okay.
Let's say we go for Shedeur.
Okay.
And let's say they start 0-3 and he's got 6 picks and 1 touchdown. How's that going to go? That's why I talk about culture.
Yeah,
You better get somebody in here that reverses this culture soon. because every year the culture remains bad, it gets harder to change the narrative. So we're just waiting. And I don't care if it's Shedeur or Cam.
Yeah.
If Cam comes in here, there's going to be a 50% Cam fan base
Yeah, there
and
is.
a 50% I hate Cam base.
There is.
And
You're
whenever
right.
they win, the Cam fan base is going to say, I told y'all. And then as soon as he falls on his face, this portion is going to be most vocal, and they're going to say,
Winning.
here we are again. I told you.
Winning
Hey, he right
changes
on-
culture.
he
Winning
right.
changes
Yeah.
all of that. And you know what?
He
It's
right
like
on that.
it's kind of like a chicken or an egg deal.
Yeah.
But in this case, I can tell you definitively, you cannot win until you change the culture. The culture never changes because you're winning now. Look at Detroit. Dan Campbell came in there and changed the culture. Look at DC. Dan Quinn came in there and changed the culture. Different message, different voice, different feel to
But
the building.
nobody was saying last year that the Browns had a bad culture.
No, but Bull, can you can you argue
Yeah.
that just winning all of a sudden turns the culture around? It's changing the culture internally that leads to winning. The narrative in 18 was this feels different. John Dorsey, this crew, this feels different. The culture's changing. Jarvis Landry came in and said, it's a culture thing, guys.
Yeah.
And it changes now. And all of a sudden, the wins started happening.
But I think before this year, we would have said the culture has changed.
We
in
did.
Cleveland.
We did. We thought it had.
We did. But that's why it's so devastating to get 3 wins, because 3 wins, like
Yeah.
on culture alone,
It should never have happened.
The Steelers on culture alone is never going.
They're going to give you 8 wins a year
They're
on
gonna
culture.
get them on just on that.
And the talent will add in 9, 10, 11,
But
12,
then
whatever.
again, like for years, you thought the Giants had a great culture. Same ownership.
It comes and goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
get
comes
that.
and
But in
goes.
some places,
It seems to stay.
goes forever, and in other places, it's there forever. And I feel like in Kansas City, it's a perfect example of it's just
Packers.
They're just-
Packers. They ain't never trash.
Green Bay,
Yeah,
New
they're
England,
never- New England, yeah.
before the post-Belichick, or really post-Brady years.
Yeah.
It's just you got to win. Winning fixes
That's
everything.
That is.